Picking a title for your book can feel as daunting and significant as choosing your baby's name. After all, this is your book baby, and it's what your book is going to be referred to for the rest of eternity. So it's no wonder why so many authors get hung up on what the title of their book should be. As a professional book editor, I've seen countless authors fret over what their book title should be and even changing it many times over the course of its development. So if you found yourself brainstorming title after title after title and then just naming your document Untitled because you can't decide on one, you've come to the right place. Today I'm going to talk through 4 great strategies for choosing the perfect book title, and for each one I'm going to give examples of successfully published books that use this strategy. Hopefully it gets the wheels turning on some possible titles for your own book. If you're new here and you haven't joined this amazing community of authors yet, welcome, and why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. On my channel, every week I either post videos with tactical writing tips like this one, or I talk about the publishing industry specifically from the Big 5 perspective, as that's my professional background. Before we get started, it would be really helpful if you hit that thumbs up button because it really does help out my channel. So let's dive in to the first method of picking a title, which is to use a noun phrase. If you scan any bookstore shelf, you'll notice that many titles are just an intriguing noun phrase, meaning a string of words describing a person, place, or thing. The pros of this approach is that these titles are really simply constructed, they're easy to understand, and they immediately help the reader visualize some kind of aspect of your book. The main con of this approach is that they can sound a bit overly generic and just not that interesting, so you need to make sure you do have unique descriptors in there. A common template that you will see for titles that fall into this category are the or an or a blank, of or in blank. So let's look at a couple of examples of very famous books. The Girl on the Train, for instance, that's a noun phrase. A Gentleman in Moscow, another noun phrase. And The Midnight Library. All of these are relatively basic, they're easy to conceptualize, but they all have an element of intrigue about them. What is a midnight library, after all, right? You have to read to find out, and then it all makes sense. The next strategy for picking a title is to pull a line from the book itself. This is personally my favorite trick for choosing a title, because it almost feels like a little Easter egg when they see the title in the book itself. And you wrote those words, so why not just use them as the title? For this strategy to work though, the phrase that you pull from the manuscript does need to stand on its own out of context. And of course, it does need to be intriguing. Ideally, the phrase that you select would reflect the tone of the story and represent some broader significance to it. Maybe it hints at the themes, for example. So 2 great examples of this in contemporary literature would be Little Fires Everywhere. This phrase shows up in the first chapter of the book and has a metaphorical significance. And another one would be The Things They Carried. This also shows up very early in the book, and it has a lot of significance to the story, speaking about what the characters are carrying physically and metaphorically. Before we head into my next strategy, I wanted to let you know about a free resource I have for my YouTube community called my Story Self-Assessment Worksheet. It's a free, easy, fun quiz designed to help you see your story from a different perspective, pinpoint what is working well in it, as well as what you could improve on the next draft. Downloading that is going to sign you up for my newsletter, where I am interviewing publishing industry insiders and successfully published authors, and I'm getting a lot of great feedback on the insights that they're sharing, so I don't want you to miss out on any of that. If you want to go straight to the newsletter, the link is also in the description. The next great strategy for picking a title for your book is to spotlight a character. If you have a book where one of your characters is particularly distinct or unique or plays a very critical role in it, consider spotlighting them and their name in the title. It doesn't necessarily have to be your protagonist or your narrator, but it could be. If the character has a unique and catchy name, then that's a bonus, because this can instantly make your book stand apart and make it hard to forget. This strategy also makes the reader immediately intrigued to learn more about that character, because having their name in the title clearly indicates that they play a huge role in the story, so we immediately want to know more about them. 2 great examples of recently published books that use this strategy. are The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. We immediately think, who is Evelyn Hugo? And why does she have 7 husbands? Or we think, who is Eleanor Oliphant and is she actually fine? These names are very distinctive and these characters are central to the story. The final technique for choosing a title for your book is to consider the genre. No matter how much thought and care you put into your title or how significant you want it to be to you as the author, ultimately, the title is a piece of marketing. While of course you want it to feel significant and fitting for your story, the goal of the title is to get a reader interested in picking up and then buying the book. And if it is not serving that purpose, it is failing. In fact, when I worked in the publishing industry, the marketing team would often comment on the title, and if we were not sure on what the title should be, they would brainstorm ideas as well, because it really is a piece of marketing. Because of that, it is very important for the title to accurately reflect the genre. The title should not mislead the reader to think that the book is going to be one genre and it is really something else entirely. The title and the genre should gel together. So do some research on the types of titles that are commonplace within your specific genre. What types of adjectives or nouns are commonly used? More importantly, what is the overall tone or vibe that those titles are giving off? Also, you might look at what the average length of those titles are in your genre. 2 great examples of titles that immediately signal the genre are Survive the Night. That is quite clearly a thriller. We're talking about survival and night. I mean, yes. And This Summer I Turned Pretty, which is YA romance. So the idea that there's something going on in the summer feels very young and YA, and turning pretty hints at a romance. So that perfectly indicates YA romance. I hope this video helped get the wheels turning for you on how to find the perfect title for your book. Let me know in the comments what your current working title is if you feel inclined to share, and which of these 4 methods you followed when coming up with your title. Another little trick that I have up my sleeve for brainstorming titles is to actually use ChatGPT, and I go into how to do that in another video, so I'll link that in the description. Before you head out, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed today's video. Hit that subscribe button to join this amazing community, and don't forget your free story self-assessment worksheet and my newsletter link in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and happy writing.